Okay, so let's do 6.3. This is word histogram. So it's a little related. I need to implement this function, word histogram. It takes a list of strings. Why? Okay, anyway, it takes a list of strings, contains sequences of a text as input. It should create a histogram of words found in the provided text with these requirements. So there's also requirements. It should ignore punctuation, spaces, capitalization, and everything should be lowercase. That seems to be a theme today. Each key should represent a unique word, and the value is the number of occurrences, and the format should look like that. Okay, that makes some sense, I guess. So when I want to solve this problem, maybe what I observe is that the hard part is not, I feel, that I'm given a list of strings. The hard part is taking a string like this that contains punctuation and upper and lowercase, and then sort of translating that into a dictionary. Because if you can do that with one string, I can probably do it with multiple. So I'm just going to focus on the problem involving the first string, and then I'm going to generalize my solution to an arbitrary number of strings. So that's going to be my strategy. So let me move over here to, not this one, this one. And let's look at this problem. So we have word histogram. Oh, there's more here. This is the first sentence of text. This is the second sentence of text. This is for you. And I am not completely sure why the person who wrote this didn't include punctuation, because, I mean, it seems like the entire point is that we should ignore punctuation. So I'm going to ignore input a little bit of punctuation in the second sentence, just for fun. Because, I mean, if my implementation needs to be able to handle it, I mean, I guess I should be able to handle it. Now here's my question. Does it need to handle all kinds of punctuation or just commas and periods? Punctuation. It's a little unclear, right? I mean, what about exclamation marks? Should we be able to handle that? I guess so. Okay, so we'll make an implementation that can handle it. So let's make it. Let's include all sorts of punctuation. We can do that. Okay, so we define a variable called lines which is a list of these strings, and then we call this word histogram with the lines, and that needs to return a dictionary that counts the occurrences of all the words that it sees in all the different lines in the strings in this list. Then we have the second problem down here, and we can ignore that for now. So my approach here is going to be to insert a breakpoint and try to work on this problem. So I'll just insert an empty print statement and a breakpoint. I need the print statement in order to have a breakpoint, something to break on. And then I'm going to enter the debug console. And that'll run the code. So I select run debug file. That's going to run the code until it hits the breakpoint. And now I can press debug console, and I can start exploring what this variable is. Well, so let's try to break this down into smaller steps. So the first step is that I'm going to define a variable s, which is just the first of these sentences, because I don't want to deal with the entire list of sentences first. So I run this code, and here I've used the shortcut that I mentioned a couple of times already today, Shift plus Alt plus E, run selected lines. Good. So I run the lines, and now we can see that S is equal to this stuff. First requirement, we need to ignore the difference between upper and lowercase letters. I guess I can just do like this. I turn it into lowercase. Second requirement, we need to ignore punctuation. So how can I do that? Well, I guess what I could do is that I could make a loop that loop over all the characters in the string, and then it builds up a new string which is equal to each of the characters in the old one, but whenever it encounters something that I don't want to include, like an exclamation mark, it doesn't include it. I think that was a bad explanation, but here's the idea. I do XS, let's call it S2. It starts out as the old string, as an empty string, and then I loop over all the letters in S, and then I print out the letter L. So let me just confirm that that works. So it works. And then what I could do instead is that I could say S2 is equal to the old value of S2 plus this letter. And now if I run these lines, so I select them, Shift Alt E, now S2 will be equal to exactly what S was. But what I can do here is that I can say if L in alphabet, where the alphabet is all the letters in the alphabet, then I should do this. Then I print out that this is not a legal character, just for fun. I need to define this variable called alphabet, but this is where I remember that I already dealt with this issue before. And I managed to write down the alphabet in just 2 tries. So that was another video where this exercise went completely wrong, and that video got deleted. That's unfortunately not a joke. Okay, Shift Alt D. The timestamp tells the story. Okay, I select all of this stuff and then I run it. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, so I need when I run this command, I need to select all the lines because otherwise I get this annoying error. Shift Alt D. Right. So why does it say it's not legal? This is not legal. Why do you do that if it's in the alphabet? Wait a second. That's because it's all the spaces. See? It's the spaces, right? So if you look at what S2 is, I made a mistake. Actually, I forgot to reset S2, so it made 2 mistakes. Oh, I select all of these lines and I run them, and then S2 is like not completely right. So what I actually need here is that I need to include space in the alphabet, because otherwise it won't include the space when I build up the sentence anew. This is one way of doing it. There are different ways you could remove certain characters that are not in the alphabet, but this is one way of doing it. So now I got a sentence that only contains words, don't contain special characters, and don't have a difference between, like only have lowercase characters like it's supposed to. So I'm sort of going to call this my pre-processing step, and that means that S2 is the string that I actually want to work on. Okay, so what's the next thing that I can do with S2? Well, I think what I'm going to do is that I'm going to initialize the dictionary. So let's call that for histogram, and let's initialize it to be the empty dictionary first. Then what I need to do is that I need to count how many times each word in S2 occurs. So I need to find a way of getting all the different words in this string so I can loop over them and update my histogram. And I think the most natural way of doing that is to use the split function that we saw, was it last week? Maybe it was last week. I think it was last week. And the split function turns a string of words separated by spaces into just a list of all the words. So now I can take and loop for a word in S2, then I can print out the words like this. Let's just confirm it works. Shift Alt D. That didn't work. That's because I forgot to split it like this. So now. So you can see that this is why I like to use the debugger, because small errors like this, I can catch them in the moment I do them, right? Here I notice there's an error. Oh, that's because I forgot split. Otherwise I would need to like run and check and blah, 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 and I would write more code and have more errors, and it would become a big mess. This is a much faster way of working, at least for me. Okay, so now I got the words. Now what I need to do is that I need to update my histogram. So I need to say hist of word is equal to, let's say it's equal to 1. So now I run these lines of code again, and you can see that updated histogram to count all the different words that I have. There's a slight problem here, because this is only going to count them one time. So actually what I want to do is I want to do something similar to what I did in the old problem, where I take, okay, how many times did I already see this word? Let me add 1 to that count like this. But this code has a bit of a problem, because remember the histogram starts out as being empty, right? So that means that now when I look at how many times I've already seen the word, this is going to give me a key error. I can just confirm that by running the code, and I get like this key error, this is not found, because this is the first word in the sentence. So how do I do that? Well, one way of fixing that is that I can check if the word is not in the histogram. So not in histogram. And in that case, I take the histogram and say, okay, now initialize it to be equal to 0. And since it's 0, that means that I'll get a 0 here for the first word, which is this. This will be true, so it'll be initialized to 0. And that means that I'll have a 0 here, and it'll be updated to 1 as it's supposed to be. So I think that will take care of that issue. So let me just remove all of this stuff, and then let me just run all the code again. So I just select all the code like this. And I run it. And that gives me an updated histogram. And I can see that it seems like all the words occurred exactly once, which is a little bit boring, because, I mean, I would have liked to see this line actually do something useful. But that's how this sentence is. Okay, that takes care of the first of the lines, because remember, there are multiple lines. But basically what I need to do here, like, let me just move this one up. I basically need to just do this for each of the lines, right? Because if I update the histogram with all the words in the first line, and then I do the same thing for the second line and the same thing for the third line, I'm just going to count all the words correctly. So the only thing I need to do here is I need to make a for loop where I now loop over the different text in this lines variable. So S will start first be this, and then it'll be this, and then it'll be this. And then I just do I turn it into lowercase. I still need to turn it into lowercase. I remove this one, and then I indent all of this stuff so it's run exactly once. It's run one time for each of the values of S. And that's going to update my histogram. And the important thing is that I moved histogram up here so I don't reset it every time. If I would have histogram inside here, I would reset it before I process each of these sentences, and that meant that this would only be counted, like it would ignore all the words here the moment it started processing this one, and then it would effectively only like count the words in this last little sentence here. So that would be wrong. So I do this. I select all the text, and then I do Shift Alt E. I don't like this error message. Let me just remove it. Goodbye. But now I can check what histogram is. So that looks better. So this is counted 3 times. And we got 1 here, and 1 here, and 1 here. So that looks correct. Okay. And then the last thing it does is that it needs to return a dictionary. So it needs to return this histogram. So let me just return it at the end. Return, it's called hist, right? Yeah, hist. Who am I asking? Fine. So that allows me to do that. I think I'll remove this breakpoint and stop the debugger. Go to the testing part. And word histogram, I guess. Let's see if we get it right in the first go. Oh god, this is exciting. Oh, we did. How fortunate, because I feel this was a long video. These problems are long. I mean, they are really long. Okay, so good luck, and yeah, I hope you made it so far.